Kendra Williams carefully lifted the vintage dress from the cardboard box, her breath catching as the ivory silk caught the afternoon light streaming through the estate sale venue. It was exquisite, 1950s or early 60s, she guessed, based on the construction and style. The fitted bodice had intricate embroidery, the full skirt would fall just below the knee, and the delicate lace sleeves were works of art. And it was priced at $50, which meant whoever was running this estate sale had no idea what they had. Kendra owned a small vintage boutique in Brooklyn called Retrograde, specializing in high-quality vintage clothing from the 1940s through 1970s. She had an eye for valuable pieces, a talent for restoration, and a growing customer base of women who appreciated authentic vintage fashion. This dress could easily sell for $500, maybe more if she found the right buyer. She checked the label inside. Custom made. No, designer name. But the quality of the stitching and materials suggested it had been expensive when new. The silk was still in excellent condition. Barely any yellowing. No major stains or tears. Just minor issues she could easily fix. Kendra paid for the dress along with several other pieces she had found, loaded everything into her car, and drove back to Brooklyn feeling satisfied with the day's haul. That evening, back at her apartment above the boutique, she tried on the dress. It fit perfectly, like it had been made for her. Kendra stood in front of her full-length mirror, turning slowly to see the dress from all angles. The ivory silk complemented her brown skin beautifully. The style emphasized her curves while remaining elegant. The hem hit at exactly the right point on her legs. Even her natural hair, worn in its usual twist-out, looked perfect with the vintage aesthetic. She took several photos for her boutique's social media, then carefully removed the dress and began the cleaning and minor repair process. A few loose threads to secure, some light steaming to remove wrinkles. Nothing major. By midnight, the dress was ready to be added to the boutique's inventory. Kendra priced it at $650 and hung it in the front window display on Tuesday morning. By Tuesday afternoon, 3 women had come in to look at it. By Wednesday, a regular customer had put it on hold. By Thursday, Kendra thought she had made a great sale. Then on Friday afternoon, everything changed. Kendra was helping a customer select accessories when the boutique door opened, and a man walked in who made everyone in the small space go still. He was tall, probably over 6 feet, with the kind of presence that commanded immediate attention. Dark hair styled perfectly, olive skin that spoke of Mediterranean heritage, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Kendra made in 2 months. And his eyes, dark brown, almost black, were currently fixed on the dress in the window with an expression that combined shock, rage, and something that looked like pain. "Where did you get that dress?" the man asked, his voice carrying a slight Italian accent and absolute authority. The customer Kendra had been helping immediately made an excuse and left, sensing danger. Kendra straightened her shoulders, refusing to be intimidated in her own boutique. "I purchased it at an estate sale in Manhattan last week." "Why?" The man moved closer to the window display, his eyes never leaving the dress. His hands were clenched into fists at his sides, and Kendra could see a muscle jumping in his jaw. "That dress," he said slowly, carefully, as if speaking was physically difficult, "belonged to my mother. She was wearing it the night she was murdered, 25 years ago." Kendra's stomach dropped. "That is impossible. This dress is vintage, but it is in excellent condition. It has been carefully preserved, probably in storage. If it had been involved in," she paused, searching for diplomatic words, "a traumatic event, there would be damage." The man finally looked at her instead of the dress, and the intensity in his gaze made Kendra take an involuntary step backward. "There was damage. My mother died in a fire. Her body was burned. That dress should not exist. So I will ask you again, and this time I expect complete honesty. Where did you get it?" "I told you the truth," Kendra said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Estate sale. A brownstone in Little Italy. The family was selling everything after the owner died. I bought several pieces. This was one of them." "What was the address?" Kendra grabbed her phone and pulled up the estate sale listing she had saved. 247 Mulberry Street, she read. The sale was last Friday through Sunday. The man stared at the address on her phone like it was written in a language he did not understand. "That is impossible," he said softly. "That is my grandmother's address. She died 3 months ago. But this dress," he turned back to the window. "This dress was destroyed 25 years ago. I saw it burn. I was there. Maybe it is just similar," Kendra suggested, though she was beginning to suspect otherwise. "Vintage styles often look alike." The man pulled out his own phone, scrolled through it, then turned the screen to show Kendra a photograph. It was old, faded, probably scanned from a print. It showed a beautiful dark-haired woman in her 30s, wearing an ivory silk dress with embroidered bodice and lace sleeves. The exact dress currently hanging in Kendra's window. "That is my mother," the man said. Juliana Romano. This photo was taken at my parents' anniversary party. 3 hours later, she was dead. And the dress she was wearing, the dress in this photo, the dress currently in your window, was burned beyond recognition when they found her body. Kendra looked from the photograph to the dress and back again. The resemblance was undeniable. Either this was the exact same dress, which seemed impossible, or an identical copy, which seemed equally unlikely given the custom nature of the garment. "Who are you?" Kendra asked. "Alessandro Romano," the man said. "And I need to understand how a dress that I watched burn with my mother's body ended up in a boutique in Brooklyn 25 years later." Alessandro Romano. The name triggered recognition. Kendra did not follow mob news closely, but she knew enough about New York to understand that the Romano family was one of the most powerful organized crime families in the city. And the man standing in her boutique, demanding answers about a dress, was apparently the head of that family. "This is crazy," Kendra said. "There has to be a logical explanation." "Then help me find it," Alessandro said. "Let me buy that dress. Let me have it analyzed. Let me understand what I am looking at." "It is on hold for a customer," Kendra said automatically. "I will pay $10,000, Alessandro said. "Cash. Right now." Kendra's breath caught. $10,000 for a dress she had paid $50 for. It was absurd. It was also more money than she would make in months of normal boutique sales. "Why?" Kendra asked. "Why is this so important to you?" Alessandro's expression softened slightly, revealing genuine emotion beneath the intimidating exterior. "Because my mother's murder was never solved. Because the official story never made sense. Because for 25 years, I have lived with questions that have no answers. And now a dress that should not exist appears in a boutique window, and maybe, just maybe, it is connected to the truth I have been searching for my entire adult life." The raw honesty in his voice made Kendra's resistance crumble. She understood loss. She understood needing answers. Her own father had disappeared when she was 10, and she had spent years wanting to know what happened, needing closure that never came. "All right," Kendra said, "but I want to be part of the investigation. I want to know where this dress really came from. I want answers too." "Why?" Alessandro asked. "This has nothing to do with you." "Maybe not," Kendra said, "but someone sold me a dress with a history I did not know about. Someone had this dress for 25 years and never told you it existed. I want to understand why. I want to help you find the truth." Alessandro studied her for a long moment, his dark eyes assessing, calculating, deciding something. Finally, he nodded. "All right, we investigate together. But Kendra Williams, owner of Retrograde Vintage Boutique, you need to understand what you are agreeing to. My world is dangerous. The truth about my mother's death might be even more dangerous. If you do this, if you help me, you put yourself at risk." "I understand," Kendra said, though she was not entirely sure she did. "No," Alessandro said firmly. "I do not think you do, but you will. And when you do, when you realize what you have walked into, I hope you will trust that I will protect you, because that is what I do. I protect what is mine, and the moment you agreed to help me, you became mine to protect." The possessiveness in his voice should have warned Kendra away, should have made her reconsider, but instead, she felt something shift in her chest. Something that felt dangerously close to attraction. "Where do we start?" Kendra asked. "With my grandmother's house," Alessandro said, "with understanding why a dress everyone thought was destroyed was hidden there for 25 years. And with you telling me everything you remember about that estate sale." For the next hour, Kendra told Alessandro every detail she could remember: the estate sale company that had organized it, the other people shopping, the layout of the brownstone, the other items for sale. Alessandro took notes on his phone, his expression growing darker with each detail. "My grandmother told me she had destroyed everything connected to my mother after the funeral," Alessandro said when Kendra finished. She said, "It was too painful to keep reminders. But clearly, she kept this dress, hid it, preserved it. Why? Maybe she could not let go," Kendra suggested. "Maybe the dress was her way of holding on to her daughter. Or maybe she knew something about my mother's death that she never told anyone," Alessandro said grimly. "Maybe this dress is evidence she was protecting someone from." That evening, Alessandro insisted on closing the boutique early and taking Kendra to his grandmother's brownstone in Little Italy. The building was exactly as Kendra remembered from the estate sale, though now it was empty, except for the few pieces of furniture that had not sold. Alessandro let them in with a key, and they walked through rooms that still smelled of old potpourri and decades of family life. "Show me where you found the dress," Alessandro said. "Upstairs," Kendra said. "In one of the bedrooms. There were several boxes of clothing." She led him to the second floor, to a bedroom that had clearly belonged to an assa. elderly woman. The boxes were gone now, sold or disposed of. But Kendra remembered exactly where they had been. It was in the third box, she said, pointing to an empty space near the closet, mixed in with other clothing from different decades. At first, I thought it was just another vintage piece. But then I saw the quality, the construction. I knew it was special. Alessandro opened the closet doors, revealing empty hangers and dust. He ran his hand along the shelf, then stopped, his fingers catching on something. There was a small box pushed to the very back of the top shelf, hidden behind where hanging clothes would have obscured it. He pulled it down carefully, blew off the dust, and opened it. Inside were photographs, dozens of them, all of the same woman, Giuliana Romano, at different ages, in different settings. And in many of them, she was wearing the ivory silk dress. My mother loved this dress, Alessandro said quietly, looking through the photos. My father had it, custom made for their 10th anniversary. She wore it to every special occasion after that. It was her favorite. He pulled out one photo that made him go completely still. It showed Giuliana wearing the dress, standing next to another woman who looked remarkably like her, slightly older, but with the same dark hair, same facial structure. Is that your grandmother? Kendra asked. Yes, Alessandro said. And look at what she is wearing. Kendra leaned closer and saw it. The other woman, Alessandro's grandmother, was wearing a dress nearly identical to Giuliana's. Same style, same embroidery, but in a pale blue instead of ivory. They had matching dresses made, Kendra said. That is sweet. Or significant, Alessandro said. He pulled out his phone and made a call. Carlo, I need you at my grandmother's house immediately. Bring the file on my mother's murder. Everything we have. 20 minutes later, a man in his 60s arrived. Silver-haired, sharp-eyed, carrying a leather briefcase that he treated with careful respect. This was clearly someone who had been with the Romano family for a long time. Alessandro, Carlo said, nodding. Then his eyes moved to Kendra and narrowed slightly. And you are? Kendra Williams, Alessandro said before Kendra could answer. She found something at my grandmother's estate sale that changes everything we thought we knew about my mother's death. Carlo opened the briefcase and pulled out a thick file folder. Inside were police reports, photographs, witness statements, all the documentation of a murder investigation that had gone cold decades ago. Show me the photos from the scene, Alessandro said. Carlo hesitated, glancing at Kendra. Are you certain? These are graphic. Show me, Alessandro repeated. Carlo laid out several photographs on the dusty floor. Crime scene photos from 25 years ago. A warehouse in Queens. A body burned beyond recognition. And barely visible in the photos, the charred remains of what might have been an ivory silk dress. The official report says my mother was meeting someone at this warehouse, Alessandro said, his voice tight with old grief and new anger, that she was killed and the warehouse was set on fire to destroy evidence. They identified her body through dental records, and through this, he pointed to the dress remains, because my father confirmed she had been wearing this dress when she left the house that night. But the dress is upstairs in my boutique, Kendra said quietly, undamaged. Which means either these photos show a different dress, or someone staged this scene. Or my mother was not the woman who died in that warehouse, Alessandro said. The words hung in the air, impossible, and yet suddenly plausible. Carlo looked between them, his expression shocked. Alessandro, what are you saying? I am saying we assumed the body was my mother because of the dental records and the dress, Alessandro said. But if the dress was not actually destroyed, if my grandmother had it this whole time, then maybe the body was not my mother either. Maybe someone wanted us to think she died. Maybe she had reasons to disappear. And maybe my grandmother helped her. That is insane, Carlo said. Why would Giuliana fake her own death? I do not know, Alessandro admitted. But I intend to find out. Over the following days, Alessandro and Kendra worked together to unravel the mystery. Alessandro used his resources and connections to pull strings Kendra did not even know existed. Police files that should have been sealed suddenly became accessible. Witnesses who had refused to talk for decades suddenly agreed to interviews. Evidence that had been locked away in storage was retrieved and re-examined. And Kendra used her own skills, researching the dress itself, tracking down the seamstress who had made it, finding records of the purchase, building a timeline of the dress's existence that contradicted the official story of Giuliana's death. They worked late into the nights in Alessandro's penthouse office, surrounded by files and photographs and evidence, trying to piece together a truth that had been hidden for 25 years. And somewhere in those long nights, sharing coffee and theories, and growing frustration with dead ends, something changed between them. Kendra began to see past Alessandro's intimidating exterior to the man underneath, someone who had lost his mother at 13 and spent 25 years seeking justice. Someone who carried the weight of a family organization on his shoulders but still found time to be gentle with her. Someone who looked at her like she was both fascinating and precious. And Alessandro, despite every logical reason to maintain professional distance, found himself drawn to Kendra in ways he had not experienced before. Her intelligence, her courage, the way she refused to be intimidated by his world, the way she looked in vintage clothing, like she had stepped out of a different era, the way she made him laugh, despite the darkness of their investigation, the way she made him feel seen in ways no one else ever had. The first kiss happened on a Tuesday night, 3 weeks into their investigation. They had just uncovered a crucial piece of evidence, a witness statement that had been buried, someone who claimed to have seen Juliana alive weeks after her supposed death. The excitement of the discovery, the late hour, the adrenaline, it all combined to create a moment of connection neither could resist. Alessandro pulled Kendra close, his hands framing her face, and kissed her with intensity that took her breath away. Kendra kissed him back, all her reservations about getting involved with a mafia boss burning away under the heat of his desire. "This is complicated," Kendra whispered when they broke apart. "Everything about us is complicated," Alessandro agreed. "But Kendra, I do not care. I want you. I have wanted you since you stood in your boutique and refused to be intimidated by me. Since you agreed to help me find the truth. Since you made me laugh when I thought I had forgotten how. I want all of you, and I will protect you from every danger that comes with wanting me." "I want you too," Kendra admitted. "Even though this is probably the worst decision I have ever made. Even though loving you, and yes, I am falling in love with you, might be the most dangerous thing I have ever done. I choose you anyway. I choose us. I choose to see where this impossible connection leads." They made love that night in Alessandro's penthouse, with the city lights glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows and the evidence of a decades-old conspiracy spread across his desk in the next room. Alessandro undressed Kendra slowly, reverently, treating each piece of clothing like unwrapping something precious. When he saw her fully, his eyes darkened with desire and something deeper. "You are beautiful," he said, his accent thicker with emotion. "More beautiful than I deserve. Than deserve me," Kendra said, reaching for him. "Become someone worthy of this. Of us." They came together with intensity that stole Kendra's breath. Alessandro was passionate but surprisingly tender, taking his time despite obvious urgency. He paid attention to every sound she made, every movement, learning what brought her pleasure and focusing on those things with single-minded dedication. "Look at me," Alessandro commanded, as they moved together. "I want to see your eyes. I want to watch you come apart for me." Kendra met his gaze, and the intensity there, the raw emotion mixed with desire, pushed her over the edge into pleasure so intense she cried out his name. Alessandro followed moments later, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe, whispering words in Italian that sounded like prayers. Afterward, lying tangled together, their heartbeats slowly returning to normal, Alessandro traced patterns on Kendra's bare shoulder. "I have never felt this before," he admitted. "This certainty, this need, to protect and possess and cherish all at once." "What does that mean?" Kendra asked, though she thought she knew. "It means you are mine now," Alessandro said, "in every way that matters, and I am yours, which means I will burn down anyone who threatens you, which means my life is dedicated to keeping you safe and happy, which means I love you, Kendra Williams, even though we have only known each other 3 weeks and it is completely insane." "I love you too," Kendra whispered, which is terrifying and perfect at the same time. Alessandro pulled her closer. "Sleep, Bella. I will watch over you. Tomorrow we continue investigating. Tonight, you are simply mine, and I am simply yours." For the first time in weeks, Kendra slept deeply, feeling protected in a way she had forgotten was possible. The next morning, they were having coffee when Carlo arrived with news. He had found the warehouse security footage from 25 years ago, footage that had supposedly been destroyed but that he had tracked down through connections at a private security company. Alessandro and Kendra watched the grainy footage together. It showed a woman arriving at the warehouse late at night, wearing what looked like an ivory silk dress. But the footage quality was poor, the lighting terrible, and the woman's face was never clearly visible. "Wait," Kendra said, pointing at the screen. "Go back. Freeze it there." Carlo complied, pausing on a frame that showed the woman from the side. "Look at her hair," Kendra said. "It is styled completely differently than Juliana wore hers, and the body type is wrong. This woman is shorter, heavier. That is not Juliana Romano." Alessandro leaned closer to the screen, seeing what Kendra had noticed. "You are right. My mother was 5 feet 8 inches tall. This woman is maybe 5 feet 4 at most. How did nobody notice this at the time?" "Because they were not looking for discrepancies," Carlo said grimly. "They were confirming a story they already believed. They saw the dress, saw a body that was the right general type, and closed the investigation. Who was she? Kendra asked. The woman who died in that warehouse wearing Juliana's dress? That, Alessandro said, is what we need to find out. Over the following weeks, they worked tirelessly. Alessandro used his resources to track down every woman who had gone missing in New York around the time of Juliana's supposed death. There were dozens. Some had been found. Many had not. But one stood out. A woman named Angela Russo, age 32, last seen 3 days before the warehouse fire, reported missing by her sister. But the case had gone cold quickly. Angela Russo had been struggling with addiction, had connections to organized crime through an ex-boyfriend, had no children, few close relationships, and according to her sister's statement, had talked about wanting to disappear and start over. This is her, Alessandro said, looking at Angela's missing person photo. This is the woman who died, in the warehouse wearing my mother's dress. But why? Kendra asked. Why did Juliana use Angela's death to stage her own disappearance? Because Angela was already dead, a new voice said from the doorway. Both Alessandro and Kendra turned to see an elderly woman standing there, leaning on a cane, her face lined but her eyes sharp and familiar. Who are you? Alessandro demanded, immediately moving to stand between the stranger and Kendra. My name is Rosa Martinelli, the woman said. I was Juliana Romano's best friend, and I helped her escape 25 years ago. Alessandro stared at the woman, processing her words. You helped my mother fake her death? I helped her save your life, Rosa corrected. Your father was making decisions that would have gotten your entire family killed. Juliana discovered evidence of his plans. She tried to stop him. He would not listen. So she made an impossible choice. Tell me everything, Alessandro said. All of it. Now. Rosa moved slowly into the room and sat down carefully. 25 years ago, she began. Your mother discovered your father was planning to expand into drug trafficking. Not small-scale operations, but partnership with major cartels. She had evidence that this would bring federal scrutiny and violent retaliation. She begged him to reconsider. He refused. So she decided to disappear, Kendra said. Not at first, Rosa said. At first, she tried to find another way. She contacted federal authorities. She offered to testify against the cartels if they would protect you and your father. They agreed. But then, 3 days before she was scheduled to enter witness protection, Angela Russo overdosed on drugs your father's organization had sold. She died in a warehouse your family owned. Juliana saw an opportunity, Alessandro said, his voice tight. A body that could be mistaken for hers. Rosa nodded. She commissioned the duplicate dress weeks earlier, anticipating she might need it. When Angela died, Juliana dressed the body in that dress, started the fire to obscure identification, and escaped with me. I drove her to the FBI. She entered witness protection that night. She spent the next 25 years cooperating with federal authorities, helping them dismantle the cartel networks your father wanted to join. And my grandmother knew, Alessandro said. That is why she kept the original dress. Your grandmother was the only other person who knew the truth, Rosa confirmed. Juliana needed someone to take care of certain things, to ensure you would be safe, to keep evidence in case the truth ever needed to come out. Your grandmother did all of that. She never told anyone, never wavered, never broke the promise she made to her daughter. Why are you telling me this now? Alessandro asked. Why reveal yourself after 25 years? Because Juliana died 6 months ago, Rosa said. Cancer. She made me promise that after her death, I would find you, tell you the truth, give you this. She pulled an envelope from her purse and handed it to Alessandro. Inside was a letter and a photograph. The photo showed Juliana in her later years, smiling, healthy, clearly alive. The letter was short. Alessandro, my son, by now you know the truth. I pray you understand why I made the choices I did. Leaving you was the hardest thing I ever did, but it was the only way to keep you safe. Your father's path would have destroyed you. By removing myself, by cooperating with authorities, by helping dismantle the networks he wanted to join, I protected you. I watched you from afar, saw you grow into a good man, a better man than your father. I was so proud. Please forgive me. Please understand. Please know that every choice was made out of love. Your mother, Juliana. Alessandro read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. Kendra held him, letting him cry, understanding that this was grief and relief and closure all tangled together. She loved you so much, Kendra said. Everything she did was to protect you. I spent 25 years thinking she was dead, Alessandro said. Mourning her, building my life around the hole her absence left. And all along she was alive, watching me, proud of me. I do not know whether to be grateful or angry, Be both, Kendra said. Feel everything. That is the only way to process something this enormous. Rosa stayed for hours, answering questions, sharing memories of Juliana, explaining details of the escape and the years that followed. She had stayed in contact with Juliana throughout, the only connection to her old life that Juliana had maintained. She talked about you constantly, Rosa told Alessandro. About whether you were safe, whether you were happy, whether you had found someone to love. She wanted so desperately to contact you, to let you know she was alive. But it was too dangerous. Your father's enemies were still looking for leverage against him. Even after he died, the cartels had long memories. They would have want you to get to her testimony. When did it become safe? Alessandro asked. Only recently, Rosa said. The last of the cartel leaders she testified against died in prison 3 years ago. That is when Juliana started making plans to reveal herself. But then she got sick. Cancer moved fast. She did not have time. But she had time to leave the dress, Kendra said, to make sure her mother kept it, to create a trail that Alessandro would eventually follow. Rosa smiled at Kendra. You understand, that dress was Juliana's message, her way of ensuring that someday, when it was safe, Alessandro would learn the truth. She always said, my son is brilliant. If he finds the dress, he will investigate. He will uncover everything, and he will understand why I did what I did. She was right, Alessandro said. The dress led me to the truth. And he looked at Kendra, to something I never expected, to someone who makes me believe in destiny. The weeks that followed were intense. Alessandro used the important information Rosa provided to finish unraveling the mystery. He tracked down records of his mother's federal cooperation, found testimony she had given that had resulted in dozens of cartel convictions, discovered that her sacrifice had literally saved countless lives by helping shut down trafficking networks. He also learned about the life she had built in witness protection. Julia Grant had worked as a librarian in Portland, had volunteered with women's shelters, had built a quiet but meaningful life. She had never remarried, never had other children, but she had found peace and purpose even in exile. Alessandro arranged to have her buried under her real name, Juliana Romano, in the family plot in Queens. The funeral was small, attended by Rosa, Carlo, Alessandro's remaining family, and Kendra. And for the first time in 25 years, Alessandro was able to properly mourn his mother and celebrate her life. She was a hero, the priest said in his eulogy. She sacrificed everything to protect her son and to help authorities stop violent criminals. Her courage saved countless lives. Her love for her son was absolute, and her legacy lives on in the man Alessandro Romano has become. After the funeral, Alessandro took Kendra to the place where his mother had supposedly died all those years ago. The warehouse had been demolished and replaced with a community center that Alessandro had funded years ago, never knowing the connection. She would have liked this, Alessandro said, looking at the children playing basketball inside, using her death to build something good, transforming pain into purpose. That is what she did with her entire life in witness protection. And it is what you have done with your life since, Kendra said. You have honored her without even knowing she was still alive to see it. Alessandro pulled Kendra close, holding her in the fading afternoon light. I want to marry you, he said. Not someday. Now. Soon. I want to build a life with you that honors my mother's sacrifice. I want children who will know their grandmother's story. I want to continue transforming the Romano organization into something legitimate, and I want to do all of it with you beside me. Yes, Kendra said. Yes, to all of it. Let us build something beautiful together. They married 2 months later in a ceremony that was both traditional and revolutionary. Alessandro wore a tailored tuxedo. Kendra wore the ivory silk dress that had started everything, altered to fit her perfectly, a tribute to the woman whose sacrifice had brought them together. The ceremony was held in the church where Romano family had been married for generations. Kendra's family filled half the church, bringing warmth and life and music from her childhood. Alessandro's family filled the other half, treating Kendra with respect and affection that suggested they saw her as a gift their family desperately needed. When the priest asked if Alessandro took this woman to be his wife, Alessandro's voice was strong and clear. I do. With everything I am. With everything I have. I promise to love her, protect her, and be worthy of the gift she has given me by choosing me. And when the priest asked if Kendra took this man to be her husband, her voice was equally clear. I do. With my whole heart. With complete trust. I promise to stand beside him, support his transformation, and build a life that honors both where we came from and where we are going together. The kiss was passionate, possessive, and perfect, and when they walked down the aisle together as husband and wife, surrounded by flowers and family and the photograph of Juliana that Alessandro had placed on the altar, Kendra felt like she had finally found where she belonged. The reception was held at Alessandro's family estate on Long Island. There was traditional Italian food, music that ranged from classical to contemporary, and dancing that lasted late into the night. Alessandro's mother, Kendra's mother, Rosa, all the women who had shaped their lives, were toasted and honored. At one point, Rosa pulled Kendra aside. "Juliana would have loved you," she said. She always said Alessandro needed someone strong enough to handle his world, but gentle enough to remind him there was more to life than power. "You are that person. You are her final gift to him." "I wish I could have known her," Kendra said. "She knew you would find each other," Rosa said. The dress ensured it. That was her plan all along. To reach forward from the past and create your future. Alessandro and Kendra honeymooned in Italy, visiting the village where the Romano family had originated. They met distant relatives, ate incredible food, and made love in a villa that overlooked the Mediterranean. And Alessandro showed Kendra the Italy his mother had loved, the culture she had been teaching him about before she disappeared. One evening, watching the sunset over the water, Alessandro said, "I have been thinking about children." "Me too," Kendra said. "I want them. I want to build a family with you. I want to name our first daughter Juliana," Alessandro said, "to honor my mother, to ensure her story lives on, to remind our children that sacrifice and courage and love can change everything." "I love that," Kendra said. "Juliana Williams Romano. She will be beautiful and strong and brave like her grandmother." A year after their wedding, on the anniversary of the day Kendra found the dress, she gave birth to their daughter. Juliana Isabella Romano came into the world healthy and perfect, with her father's dark eyes and her mother's beautiful skin tone. Alessandro held his daughter and cried. "She has my mother's eyes," he said in wonder. "It is like Juliana is here, meeting her granddaughter, approving of all of this." Kendra watched her dangerous, powerful husband transform into a gentle father, watched him hold their tiny daughter like she was made of glass and starlight, watched him promise her protection and love, and a future free from the violence that had defined his past. "You are going to be an amazing father," Kendra said, "and your mother would be so proud of the man you have become, of the family we are building, of the life you have created that honors her sacrifice." 2 years later, they had a son they named Marco, after Alessandro's grandfather. The brownstone in Brooklyn that had housed Kendra's boutique was renovated to include their expanding family. Retrograde became more successful than ever, with Kendra's reputation bringing clients from all over the world, and Alessandro continued transitioning Romano operations toward complete legitimacy. They lived between Brooklyn and the family estate on Long Island, attended charity events and gallery openings, hosted family dinners that mixed Kendra's family with Alessandro's organization, built something beautiful and real and lasting. And in their bedroom, the ivory silk dress hung, preserved and honored, a reminder of how they met, of the mystery that brought them together, of Juliana's sacrifice and love, of the impossible coincidence that connected two people who were perfect for each other. 5 years after finding the dress, Kendra and Alessandro stood in their backyard watching their children play. Juliana was 4, full of energy and questions. Marco was 2, toddling after his sister with determination. A third child, a daughter named Rosa, after the woman who had helped Juliana escape, slept in Alessandro's arms. "This is everything," Alessandro said. "Everything my mother wanted for me. A family, a legitimate business, a life free from the violence that killed my father. You gave me all of this, Kendra. You and that dress brought me here. We brought each other here," Kendra corrected. "You investigated when you could have just dismissed it. You opened your heart when you could have stayed closed. You chose transformation over tradition. We did this together." "Together," Alessandro agreed. "Always. Together." That evening, after the children were in bed, Alessandro and Kendra stood in their bedroom looking at the dress. Tomorrow was the anniversary of the day they met. 6 years since Kendra had bought an impossible dress at an estate sale. 6 years since Alessandro had walked into her boutique and demanded answers. 6 years since they started unraveling a mystery that would bind them together forever. "I think about what my life would have been without you," Alessandro said. "Without finding that dress. Without discovering the truth. Without falling in love with you. And I cannot imagine it. Cannot imagine missing any of this." "Me either," Kendra said. "That dress was fate disguised as vintage clothing. Your mother reaching forward through time to create our future, to ensure you found someone who would love all of you, to give you the family she always wanted you to have." "Do you think she knew?" Alessandro asked. "Do you think she could have anticipated all of this?" "I think mothers know things," Kendra said. "I think Juliana understood that the dress would lead you to the truth. And I think maybe she hoped it would lead you to love too, to someone who would help you finish becoming the man she raised you to be." Alessandro pulled Kendra close, holding her in front of the dress, their reflection in the mirror showing the family they had built, the love they had found, the life they had created from an impossible beginning. The letter changed everything. It suggested Juliana had known she was in danger, had planned her disappearance, had deliberately staged her death to protect her family from something. From what? Kendra asked. What was she protecting you from? I do not know, Alessandro said, but I intend to find out. The investigation shifted focus. Instead of solving a murder, they were now searching for a woman who had been hiding for 25 years. Alessandro used every resource at his disposal. Private investigators, contacts in federal agencies, favors called in from organizations all over the country. 3 months after Kendra found the dress, they got their answer. A woman living in Portland, Oregon, under the name Julia Grant, had recently died of cancer. Her death certificate and obituary mentioned she was originally from New York, and the photograph accompanying the obituary showed a woman in her 60s who looked remarkably like Juliana Romano might look after 25 years. Alessandro and Kendra flew to Portland the next day, met with the lawyer handling Julia Grant's estate, and discovered that Julia had left behind letters, one addressed to Alessandro Romano in New York, to be delivered only after her death. The letter explained everything. Juliana had discovered that her husband, Alessandro's father, was planning to move the family deeply into drug trafficking. She had evidence that this expansion would make them targets for federal prosecution and violent retaliation from cartels. She had tried to stop him, but he would not listen, so she made an impossible choice. She faked her death, using a woman who had overdosed from drugs her husband's organization had sold, dressing the body in the duplicate ivory dress, and escaping with her mother's help. She had spent 25 years in witness protection, cooperating with federal authorities to bring down the cartels her husband had wanted to partner with, keeping her son safe from a distance. I watched you grow up from afar, the letter concluded. I saw you become a better man than your father ever was. I saw you transition the family toward legitimate businesses. I saw you become the kind of leader I wished your father could have been. And I was proud, Alessandro. So proud. I hope you can forgive me for leaving. I hope you can understand I did it to save you. I love you, always. Your mother, Juliana. Alessandro read the letter 3 times before he could speak. When he finally did, his voice was rough with tears he did not try to hide. She was alive, he said. All these years, she was alive. She was protecting me. Kendra held him while he cried. This dangerous, powerful man reduced to the grief of the 13-year-old boy who lost his mother. And she understood that the dress had been more than just evidence. It had been Juliana's way of leaving a trail, of ensuring that someday, when the time was right, Alessandro would find the truth. In Portland, Alessandro and Kendra attended a small memorial service for Julia Grant, met the friends she had made in her new life, learned about the woman his mother had become, working as a librarian, volunteering at women's shelters, living quietly but meaningfully. She had built a good life, even if it had been a life without her son. The letters Julia left behind also included detailed evidence about Alessandro's father's operations, information that explained why she had felt escape was the only option, and why Alessandro's father had been killed just 5 years after Juliana's disappearance, caught in the violent cartel wars he had insisted on engaging with. My father's death was his own doing, Alessandro said as they flew back to New York. My mother tried to save him and he would not listen. So she saved me instead. By removing herself, she removed the leverage enemies could use against him, and she protected me from being caught in the crossfire when everything fell apart. She loved you so much, Kendra said. Everything she did was to protect you, and I spent 25 years thinking she was dead, Alessandro said. Mourning her, seeking justice for her murder, when all along she was alive and watching over me from a distance. I do not know whether to be grateful or angry. Be both, Kendra suggested. Feel everything. That is the only way to process something this enormous. Back in New York, Alessandro made changes. He accelerated the transition of Romano operations toward complete legitimacy. He used his mother's evidence to help federal prosecutors dismantle several cartel operations, closing off the dark paths his father had wanted to pursue. And he honored his mother's memory by building something she could have been proud of. 6 months after finding the dress, Alessandro took Kendra to dinner at a private restaurant in Little Italy, somewhere quiet where they could talk without interruption. They had been living together for 3 months now, Kendra having moved out of her apartment above the boutique into Alessandro's penthouse. Her business was thriving, partially due to Alessandro's connections, bringing her high-profile clients, but mainly because her talent and reputation were genuine. I have something for you, Alessandro said after they had finished eating. He pulled out a velvet box and opened it to reveal a ring that took Kendra's breath away. A single diamond in a vintage setting that looked like it belonged in her boutique. Marry me, Alessandro said. I know we have only known each other 6 months. I know our relationship started with a dress and a decades-old mystery. I know my world is complicated and dangerous. But Kendra, you changed my life. You helped me find the truth about my mother. You made me believe I could be better than I was. You loved me despite everything. Marry me. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you and cherishing you and proving I am worthy of the gift you have given me. Tears streamed down Kendra's face. Yes, she said. Yes, I will marry you. I will choose you every day. I will build a life with you that honors your mother's sacrifice and your transformation. I will love you despite and because of all your complications. Alessandro slipped the ring onto her finger, then pulled her close for a kiss that tasted like promise and passion and permanent commitment. They married 4 months later in a ceremony that blended both their worlds. The church in Little Italy, where Romano family had been married for generations. Kendra's mother, sisters, extended family filling half the church, Alessandro's family and organization filling the other half, and on the altar, next to their unity candle, a photograph of Giuliana Romano in her ivory silk dress, finally acknowledged and honored. Kendra wore the dress for the wedding, the original ivory silk dress that had started everything. She had it cleaned and carefully altered to fit perfectly, and when Alessandro saw her walking down the aisle wearing his mother's favorite dress, his eyes filled with tears. "You are beautiful," he whispered when she reached the altar. "And my mother would have loved you. Would have been grateful you helped me find the truth. Would have blessed this union." "I wish I could have met her," Kendra said. "She knew you would find each other," Alessandro said. "That dress was her gift to both of us, her way of reaching forward from the past to create our future." The ceremony was beautiful. Traditional vows spoken in both English and Italian. Rings exchanged, promises made. And when the priest pronounced them husband and wife, when Alessandro kissed Kendra with passion that made several guests laugh and applaud, Kendra thought about destiny and choices and impossible coincidences. 1 year after their wedding, Kendra gave birth to a daughter they named Giuliana, after Alessandro's mother. The baby had her father's dark eyes and her mother's beautiful brown skin, and she was absolutely perfect. Alessandro held his daughter with reverence, and tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he whispered to Kendra. "Thank you for this. For her. For everything." Kendra watched her husband transform into a father before her eyes. Watched this dangerous, powerful man reduced to gentleness by a tiny baby. And she knew they had built something beautiful out of an impossible beginning. The ivory silk dress hung in their bedroom, preserved and honored. A reminder of how they had met, of the mystery that brought them together, of the mother who had loved Alessandro enough to sacrifice everything for him, of the truth that had been hidden for 25 years waiting to be discovered, of the impossible coincidence that had connected two people who should never have met but were absolutely perfect for each other. That is the story of Kendra Williams and Alessandro Romano. A story that began with a dress at an estate sale and became a love that transcended time, family secrets, and impossible odds. Their story proves that sometimes the past reaches forward to create the future, that mysteries exist to bring the right people together, and that love can be built from the most shocking discoveries. Kendra and Alessandro's relationship reminds us that family secrets have power, that truth matters even when it is painful, that honoring the dead means living fully, and that sometimes the most impossible coincidences are fate disguised as chance. It shows us that love does not need perfect circumstances, just brave people willing to trust in connections they cannot explain. If this incredible story of mystery, shocking discovery, and transformative love moved you, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We share new stories every week about real people who discovered that family secrets shape us, that honoring the past creates the future, and that sometimes a vintage dress is not just clothing but destiny waiting to unfold. What did you think of Kendra and Alessandro's story? Would you have investigated the mysterious dress? Or would you have stayed out of it? Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing how these stories resonate with your own experiences of discovery, truth-seeking, and choosing love despite complications. Remember, sometimes a dress is more than fabric and thread. Sometimes it is evidence. Sometimes it is a message from the past. Sometimes it is fate dressed in vintage silk, waiting for the right person to find it. And sometimes, the most shocking discovery is not the secret itself, but the love that grows from uncovering it. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next story. That is the story of Kendra Williams and Alessandro Romano, a story that began with an impossible dress at an estate sale and became a love that transcended time, family secrets, and decades of mystery. Their story proves that sometimes the past reaches forward to create the future, that mysteries exist to bring the right people together, and that love can be built from the most shocking discoveries. Kendra and Alessandro's relationship reminds us that family secrets have power, that truth matters even when it is painful, that honoring the dead means living fully, and that sometimes the most impossible coincidences are fate disguised as chance. It shows us that love does not need perfect circumstances, just brave people willing to trust in connections they cannot explain. Their journey teaches us that mother's love transcends death, that sacrifice creates legacies, that courage means making impossible choices for those we love, and that sometimes a vintage dress is not just clothing but destiny waiting to unfold. It proves that investigation and honesty can lead to both truth and love, that dangerous men can become devoted husbands and fathers, and that the greatest mysteries often have the most beautiful resolutions. If this incredible story of mystery, shocking discovery, and transformative love moved you, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We share new stories every week about real people who discovered that family secrets shape us, that honoring the past creates the future, and that sometimes a vintage dress is not just clothing but destiny waiting to unfold. What did you think of Kendra and Alessandro's story? Would you have investigated the mysterious dress, or would you have stayed out of it? Have you ever discovered a family secret that changed everything? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing how these stories resonate with your own experiences of discovery, truth-seeking, and choosing love despite complications. Remember, sometimes a dress is more than fabric and thread. Sometimes it is evidence. Sometimes it is a message from the past. Sometimes it is fate dressed in vintage silk waiting for the right person to find it. And sometimes the most shocking discovery is not the secret itself, but the love that grows from uncovering it. Thanks for listening, and we will see you in the next story.